Mercury represents not only those skills, but also your ability to succeed in the field of business. Ability to succeed will depend on your ability to adapt and pivot. Mercury has his own way, his own art of dealing with problems, of overcoming enemies, of overcoming challenges, of having a discipline of his own sorts. Hi guys, welcome back to the Astrology. Today we are continuing with our series of planets in all houses, and this is going to be the last video in this series where we are going to be talking about Mercury in all houses. I hope you have enjoyed the series so far. Thank you for a lot of support, amazing motivational comments, subscribing to the channel as well. You have definitely contributed to the growth of the channel during the course of this month. And I hope more audience, as you continue to watch it, you will associate yourself with Devastrology and shower us with your love, kind feedback, and benediction. Now, without further ado, guys, let's try and understand what is this Mercury. And once we get the understanding of how the planet Mercury in itself behaves, it will give you a lot of insight in terms of figuring out how this is going to be panning out with respect to your chart, your kundali in your respective houses. As you would have noted in the thumbnail as well, we called out that Mercury is a planet which showcases your intelligence. I have mentioned that as well as STEM, which is essentially science, technology, engineering, management. All of these capabilities of STEM subjects, STEM field of education, or jobs, businesses pertaining to STEM industries are typically seen through the strength of Mercury itself. And agree or not, a lot of times the success within these streams, within science, technology, engineering, management, is seen through an native's individual intellect. Now, this means that if you have a strong Mercury, if you have a Mercury that is placed in good dignity, it has good Shadbala, Ashtavarga score is strong, or the house where it is placed in the Bhavbala are on a good side of things, or it is getting good directional strength, then this Mercury is going to empower you with some of its significances, and that will be very evident in your nature, in the way you interact and behave. And yes, intelligence is one of those quotients that will get impacted. I have observed more often than not, and this will sound a little displeasing to some of the folks who might have a combust Mercury, who have Mercury in not so great dignity, that usually your decision making ability, your sense of grasping new subjects, your ability to learn things fast is going to be on the other side of the spectrum, where you might need more effort, no more push from your side. A weaker Mercury can thus impact your growth. Now, this doesn't mean that you would be carrying some sort of negative traits. Why? Because a lot of people tend to jump to comments, that Dave Einstein had exalted Mercury and yet it was combust or whatnot, and still he recuperated and he did so well. He was dyslexic. Yes, you can pick up multiple such examples, but guys, you have to understand, it is not one planet, it is the position of multiple planets and the yogas which is coming into play that impacts us. And thus, I'm not saying if somebody has a weak Mercury, you are a dumb person. Please do not bash me with your comments there. What I'm trying to tell you is that the impact of Mercury from an intelligence level perspective will get diminished. Now, does that mean you could not be straight smart, you could not be successful? No, not at all. Your Rahu could be helping you out, your Mars, Sun, Jupiter, any of those planets, Venus could be helping you out to give you amazing results. All of them working in collaboration in yogas in your chart. However, in this video, we are specifically alluding to the performance of what happens when Mercury has that certain impact. And thus, it is quite evident that this is a planet that impacts your intelligence. It impacts your thinking ability. Now, Mercury being the ruler of Gemini sign or the third house in a Kalpurus chart is also responsible for communication. He is responsible for your writing skills, expression of all sorts. It is your ability to use your voice in the right fashion, convince people, and thus it can also impact your negotiation skills, your speech, your articulation. And you will realize that Mercury's position in certain places is going to give you the ability where you could pursue careers which are related in excellence to your speech or communication. It can bring you into sales roles, it can bring you into public speaking, it can bring you into communications and public relations for that matter. Journalism is another interesting area that you could succeed with. However, you have to also keep in mind that this also denotes negotiations, and that is very important in the stream of business when you are trying to interact with different parties and figure out a win situation, a both win situation. In your ability to intellectually use your mind at that spontaneous incident to arrive at a situation, at a solution that can win for both parties is what is seen from your communication skills as well. And thus, Mercury represents not only those skills, but also your ability to succeed in the field of business. Thereby, you will notice that, like Moon, Mercury also is a fast moving planet. He is very sharp when it comes to trade and commerce. He is very sharp when it comes to business because he knows to use his intelligence. He knows to use his communication and direct the other party in a direction wherein it becomes a collaborative insight for them. So you will be smart when it comes to trading. You will be smart when it comes to commerce, fast exchange of money. And Mercury likes it. Guys, please understand, he is known as the prince in the entire ecosystem of these planets. He's a youthful planet and he is neutral by sexual nature as well. Now, what do I mean by neutral? It's like his gender was evolving at the time of evaluation or defining the significances when compared to Saturn, who is old and seen more as important. And thus, this Mercury, not only he is intelligent, smart, good with trade and commerce, he is youthful, which is seen from his ability to be happy go lucky, to be prosperous. He's a prince, he's young. And that is evident from a person's behavior, from their personality as well. A person could have a very youthful and charming personality with a strong Mercury. It will give them that wit, that humor to strike jokes at the right point in time, to be sarcastic in such a way that it is not hurtful to many. Of course, depending on the sign, it can be hurtful as well. But a good placed Mercury is going to bring in all of those aspects where you could be extremely witty, extremely charming, youthful with your personality. You are going to attract people with the way you are communicating, with the way you are expressing yourself, with your ideology, with your intellect. And that is the reason it is very smart when it comes to his relationships as well. He is a trader in relationships too. He is like a businessman. He's always seeing what is best available to him. He's very clever from that perspective. Yet, because he is neutral by gender or because he's still young and evolving, it also gives him the ability to adapt to situations. There is a duality to his nature, there is a duality in his sexuality. He can swing on both sides. He's attracted to beauty of all sorts. And at the same time, he's adaptable. He's able to pivot like a chameleon and see that what is the best suited approach for him at a given point in time. Or in a positive way, you can also look at it as the ability for a person or a native to learn new things and be flexible around it. And that is why he is ruling the dual Rashi of Gemini as well. That duality comes naturally to Mercury. I hope that gives you some of the insights as to how this Mercury is going to behave in your chart. And now, when you've understood the significances of this Mercury, we are going to deep dive into the placements of Mercury in each house and understand what it means for you. All right, let's get started. So, guys, now when Mercury comes into your first house, it is bringing all of those attributes to the personality of the native. If you have Mercury in your first house, what you are going to observe is that irrespective of your age or the kind of state you are in your life, you will have this youthful energy in you. What do I mean by that? When you are interacting with kids, you are going to be using that sort of cute language interacting with children. You would, according to the age in front of the people that you are surrounded with. Now, that is not a common attribute that you are able to see with most of the people. A normal person would still act as an adult and be guiding and talking to a kid like a father or a mother, depending on their personality. If they are speaking to elders, they will still act their age, act as an adult, and respond to them, keeping that dignity of adulthood and seniority in place. But a person with Mercury in ascendant is having that ability to adapt himself or herself. They are able to articulate their words, their expressions, even the kind of jokes they crack, depending on the person that they are interacting with. They'll be very flexible, acting cute with a child, whilst they will still be acting youthful, clever, witty in front of adults, yet providing that respect, that adulation as it is needed. They would be acting clever, smart when talking to their peers. Yet they will be joyful, they will be cheerful, they will be witty in the way they throw around that sarcasm in their friends group. These are the set of people who tend to, in general, have a good network as well. They are very good in terms of forging relationships with new set of people. Cracking jokes, being humorous by nature, making people laugh around you is something that could come naturally to a person who's having Mercury in the ascendant in the Lagna in the first house itself. Now, another personality trait that you will notice about this person is that youthfulness is not just in behavior but in mind too. What do I mean by that? It is going to make you think young. You are going to be attracted towards energies which are younger by nature or Mercurian by nature, because Mercury is also giving an aspect, seventh aspect to your seventh house itself. That means this playful Mercury, this Mercury who always likes to be, not bored, or who easily gets bored for that matter, native with this placement could easily get bored. They are always looking for that youthful energy, no stress environment in the kind of people they are interfacing with as well. They are never going to enjoy being in relationship with somebody who brings stress or takes away that humor from life. They like to smile around their partners or with their sexual alliances, partnerships that they form in life. They could be attracted towards their Mercurian energy as well. That is why a lot of times you will find that with Mercury in ascendant, you will be inclined towards having a partner who's Gemini, Virgo, or some strong mercurial aspect presence in their chart as well. But it can be tricky. Mercury's only risk with this placement is that it can be playful with respect to its relationships as well. And that can only happen if he's getting bored easily. If the partner is able to tap to that energy, then they can be one of the best, uh, full of youth partners to be with. Now, Mercury coming into the ascendant also tells you that the business acumen of this person is going to be sharp. Even if you are not a businessman or running your own company, even if you are employed under some organization, you will have the business acumen to understand that at what point in time is my company making the right money? What is a profit making or a loss making deal? And most of the times, these guys will not go for a loss making deal for their employer as well. Of course, it is going to give them a very strong intent to start something of their own, to be entrepreneurial by nature, or to be a business person in general. This means that some sort of side activity, a side hustle, is also possible with this Mercury in the ascendant itself. They would always want dual income. You will find that people with Mercury in the first house are very adaptable as well. They pivot given the need of the art. They pivot based on the situations that they are stuck with. So they will know how to negotiate things for their best outcome. They know how to articulate. They are very strong in their communication. The art of playing with words to make it happen for you is something that comes naturally. They are adept at it. when Mercury is in the first house. Remember, Mercury in the first house also gets a very strong directional strength. Digbala for Mercury in this house is extremely strong. Now, it could also influence your intelligence in terms of the STEM subjects, as I mentioned before. If you've not listened to that initial section, guys, it is worthwhile to spend 5 minutes to go back and listen to the first section as well. You are going to get a lot more clarity. So it is going to bring you that ability to do well in subjects where your general intelligence quotient is going to be high with a good placement and good dignity of Mercury. However, a non-combusted, non-retrograded Mercury here, any sign is generally going to make you a sharp individual. Now, you have to also understand that your speech could be harsh or kind depending on the sign placement that it is placed in. But in general, this Mercury is going to give you the ability to use your communication, use your speech for your own benefit. The Mercury is also going to bring some level of skill, some inherent skill which will stick around with you. Now, this doesn't mean that, like Ketu, you are born with that skill. It is something that you can sharpen over the years. It could be singing, it could be communication, it could be public speaking, it could be mathematics, it could be any subject for that matter. But as you do that, it is going to be the reason for your employment generation in the long term. Now, when Mercury comes into the second house, it is coming into the house of communication, it is coming into the house of family, it is coming into the house of food that you consume, your savings. And in general, what I've observed is that people with Mercury in the second house are very sharp in terms of managing their own money. They are very clever, poised, they know what is the best approach for them to invest or save their money depending on the life situation they are in. Now, yes, decision making ability is what we see through Mercury. And I have talked about this in the Mercury Mahadasha video as well. Depending on the dignity of this Mercury, you will be able to decipher the outcomes of what you are going to find from a savings perspective. Remember, in a way, Mercury is going 12 through itself. Yet, this Mercury is going to bring a very strong business acumen in you. It is going to make you a very sharp, calculative person with respect to money matters. And thereby, when it comes to trading, when it comes to fast commerce, when it comes to food related business, when it comes to quick commerce, this Mercury is going to give you a very strong possibility to succeed in those areas. A lot of times you will realize that this business acumen could come from your family connections itself, or you could associate yourself with your business family itself in whatever they are doing, or you would want to expand your business leveraging the support of your family. So Mercury here is going to make you extremely calculative, and you know your pivot, you know what you have to achieve from your material goals perspective, and how do you want to leverage your family's support for the same. At the same time, Mercury's presence here is going to make yourself extremely articulate when you are trying to configure your communication, your interaction with your family members itself. There's a sense of cleverness, there is a sense of professionalism in how you put your thoughts across. And the reason I say professionalism is because Mercury has that perfection when it comes to speech. You are not going to be one person who is not thinking whilst communicating. You will notice that people with Mercury in the second house have a very different style of articulating their thought process, even in informal settings when compared to anybody else. Somebody just might blabber whatever comes to their mind. But a person with Mercury in the second house, they are going to, and the sign of a good Mercury here is that they will know how to be kind, generous, clever, yet positive in their interactions with family members too. And I do not mean to say here that you intend to misuse that strength. No, you would just want to be as polite, as kind, as if you were communicating to a stranger as well. A lot of times we take our family members for granted and we talk to them roughly, whilst we are very kind and open to people who are the outsiders. This Mercury, however, can pivot that. It can give you the ability to bring that sweet, melodious tone in how you are interacting with your family members. And that's the beauty of this placement. This Mercury can also make you very sharp with respect to business processes, with respect to business opportunities, with respect to food, with respect to trading in the agricultural sector or food sector, in the entire value chain of that business, right from agricultural to supply chain produce to taking it downstream in terms of selling at shops, e-commerce, or restaurants, and running that kind of business as well. I wouldn't be surprised if many of you or your families are associated from that business, and you might comment with your feedback on that. Now, Mercury's presence here is also going to bring in some level of duality, some level of adaptability, which means that you will have this, ability to change yourself, transform yourself based on the situations of your family, based on your family environment. And that pivot in you, that transformation in you is going to help bring out the challenges or bring out your family out of those challenging situations. It is giving an aspect to your eighth house, which is your house of in laws, your house of joint accounts with your spouse. It is the money that you can gain from sudden, unexpected situations. And this Mercury tells that if you are in an enterprising role, if you are doing something where you have to, you are responsible for your own money, for your own destiny, there could be some stupendous amount of gains coming in your way. However, if this Mercury is in a turbulent spot, I would want you to be careful in terms of, doing any kind of partnerships as well. See, it can bring a lot of mismanagement with respect to finances along with partner, or it can be extremely transformative, bringing lots of growth between you, your partner, and your in-laws. It can be a good combination for business partnership with your in-laws as well. But there is always the risk of some sort of cheating coming along with Mercury, and that is where you will have to be careful upon. I will not be able to make a general prediction to tell you who will cheat whom. That can only come based on the dignity of your Mercury, its sun placement, and the aspect into the eighth house, eighth lord, and I have to analyze that. But yes, cheating of some sorts, that experience to either parties can come with this placement as well. Cheating within the family from a business money matters perspective. Now, this Mercury is also going to bring a lot of youthfulness, charm in the way you are being in your family. So it could be possible that you come across as a very serious, polished person to the external world. But the moment you come into your house, when you're surrounded with your wife, your parents, your kids, you could be a completely different personality. You could be cracking jokes. You could be non serious at all points in time. The external world might think that this is a person who's always watching business channels or sports news for that matter. But whilst at home, you are the one who's binge watching Netflix with the family and you want suspense, thrillers, comedy, and those kind of things to enjoy with your family. You get the sense, the speed of what is happening here. That's exactly that duality in nature is what this Mercury is going to provide you whilst you are in and around with your family. And if all of this is making sense, guys, you must subscribe and smash on that like button because you are not doing that job in entirety to the fullest. All right. Now, when we see Mercury in the third house, this is an interesting placement for Mercury because while directionally Mercury is now heading towards not one of its favorite situations, yet naturally Mercury is the lord of the third house because he rules the sign of Gemini. And you will have to see that what is the dignity of this Mercury with respect to its Shadbal, the Bhavsthana score, or as well as the position of Gemini sign and Virgo sign charts. The sign placement of Mercury becomes extremely important here. But you have to also understand that naturally Mercury is coming into the house of communication. It's the house of mass communication, it's the house of your hobbies, your short distance travel, your interaction with your neighbors, the kind of hard work you put into things. And thereby, Mercury's placement is going to showcase that you are going to be a person whose decision making or your intelligence is going to be extremely important in how you shape the fortune of your life, how you shape the destiny. Because Mercury from here is also giving an aspect to the ninth house, and ninth house is naturally ruled by Sagittarius, by Jupiter. It's not a great aspect of Mercury coming in this axis now. So it is important for Mercury to be in absolutely good dignity, or else it can be a very transformational as well as painful situation for the native. In a good dignity, this Mercury is going to give you the opportunity to express yourself, especially in a formal setup, in a very polished way. You will know your art of communication. You are a sweet talker. You have that natural melody in you that will enable you to charm the audience. There is a youthfulness, even if you will find that these people will turn into their 50s and 60s, yet they will be talking 20 years younger their age. Now, this doesn't mean that they are stupid, they do not understand what they are doing. They are doing so because they want to be amicable to the people, especially in a formal setup, younger to them. This will give a very interesting relationship with their siblings as well, because Mercury in general denotes your sisters, it denotes your siblings, cousins included. It also denotes the sister on your mother's side or on your father's side. So when Mercury is coming into the third house, there is a potential risk of some sort of also coming with them. But if it is in good dignity, you are going to get ample support from the females, from the sisters, siblings in your life for your growth as well. Remember, Mercury's aspect here is to the ninth, to the house of fortune, and it aspect is going to bring some level of turbulence, if not a lot of negativity in life. That turbulence can reflect in terms of you struggling with your relationship with your father, you having some sort of misalignment in principles in terms of your value system, either with your family, your father, or in your workplace itself, where you are never aligned with your bosses. There could be some sort of conflicting situations because of your style of communication with your superiors or with your father. Some kind of arguments could be a part of your life story there. Yet, this Mercury is going to give you the intent during its Dasha, Mahadasha, Antardasha to travel to different places as well, both short distance and long distances. So, it is going to bring that level of inclination in you where you would be using an opportunity to explore the world. Because see, Mercury being a young prince, he is an explorer by nature as well. He wants to discover new things. Yet you will find that this is a place where your hobbies, your interest areas will be something that are either related to the 3-9 axis. Either it could be in terms of spirituality, or it could be your intelligence that you use to comprehend spiritual matters of intellect. You would enjoy games that like to use your brain. To give you an example, checkers, chess. You have to plan your moves. This Mercury is going to be less inclined in carrying a physical sport for that matter. A Mars or a Saturn would have helped you do that. Probably a conjunction or a support in one of those signs can make you do that. But in general, this Mercury would want to use his intellect. So you would enjoy playing a Sudoku for that matter, or you would want to listen into mythological stories and bring your own level of comprehension, your own level of understanding, and you would want to share that with the world. So your ability to do so will also be great. Of course, you have to keep in mind this Mercury should not be retrograded or combust. There are different levels of challenges that will come into play, and we will talk about retrogression in separate video too, as well as combustion, guys. I know so many of you have requested about it, so we will do a separate video around it. But what you will realize is that a lot of times when Mercury is in debilitation, when it is in combustion, the impact of all these significances can reduce drastically. Of course, you have to have a look at the Shadbal and a Bhavbal as well, the Ashtavargas too. But it is going to significantly reduce, and that is what is going to be evident in your life. The other bit that you will notice is that there is going to be a possibility of you doing some collaborative business, doing something in partnership with your siblings. But I would want you to practice that with caution. Because at the end of the day, this placement is ninth from the seventh house. It's a good placement, but the principle or the value system in your partnership has to be called out from day one, or else it can bring in challenges, because this is a house of hard work. Mercury in a conflicting situation can give you problems with respect to your speech or with respect to your siblings in their speech as well. What you will also realize is that this is a position that can bring your communication ability, your skills of interacting with people or mass communication into professions that help you succeed there. So you could do well with social media, your Instagram, YouTube, and all related fields, maybe LinkedIn, writing blogs around that, running your own website and publishing articles, knowledge material in that space, youthfulness in that space, comic, witty material, humorous content. All of that is going to be very, very fruitful, and it might work out for you. It can bring you success with respect to child related aspects in e-commerce business too. Of course, you have to combine that with multiple yogas, but many of you will have this combination as well. Now, this Mercury is going to thus make you very smart with respect to trade and commerce. You are not going to shy away from traveling short and long distances required for your business. And that is going to give you positive outcomes as well. It makes you extremely adaptable. Depending on the situation, you are going to reconfigure, repivot yourself as to how you portray yourself around the entire world. So, all in all, this Mercury position is a mixed position. It has its own share of good and bad that comes around with it. And if you've aligned yourself with this thought process, I don't think it costs too much for you to subscribe to the channel and smash on that like button, guys. Now, we will talk about Mercury in the fourth house. Now, Mercury in the fourth house is directionally not one of the best situations for Mercury to be placed in. Even if this Mercury is an exaltation, yes, it is going to bring in some of its positives, but Mercury in fourth in general is turbulent. Why? Because Mercury is coming into the national house of Moon, that of Cancer for that matter. It is bang opposite to where he feels comfortable, which is 10th or the Lagna as well. So, directionally, too, this Mercury is not getting a lot of support. But the same Mercury can bring in some of the very interesting strength areas to your personality, to your mindset. Firstly, what you will observe is that you are going to be extremely calculative, extremely critical with respect to how do you grow your wealth, your savings, your accumulation of movable and immovable property, and you are going to be extremely methodical, number oriented when it comes to all these details. Yes, business minded nature can come naturally to you, but the problem with business mindedness here, ability to succeed will depend on your ability to adapt and pivot. Say you have an exalted Mercury here, you could pivot pretty well, but remember then the aspect to the 10th will be debilitated. And even though it is aspirational, yet it is not going to be great. On the other side, in the other extreme, if Mercury is debilitated here, is giving all the more exalted aspect to the 10th. So, yes, it makes you karma oriented, profession oriented, but there's a constant lack of peace and mismanagement when it comes to your assets. So, there is this dilemma, this level of confusion that comes with this Mercury, because whilst it makes you think a lot about money management, asset management, it can also bring equal amount of bad judgment, miscalculations when it comes to how you run your business, how do you manage your assets as well. And thereby it is a very tricky situation or very tricky placement for market. Yes, you will have a natural intellect, but how much of that will translate into your success towards business, towards transactions, is completely dependent on the fourth lord position as well, Moon's placement too. And if or not this Mercury is acting as a malefic in your chart, you have to also understand here that Mercury is going to bring in sweetness when it comes to your communication and speech. At least in your mind, you will try your level best to be as kind as possible. But there is also a flurry of emotions, lack of peace that comes with the natural position of Mercury. In general, your profession, in general, matters associated with money will keep troubling you throughout your lifetime. Now, Mercury here also brings certain level of youthful, brings certain level of um, interest in subjects which are new, modern, relative to what others would have seen. So you could be a person who is the first to adapt to new technology. When Instagram gets launched, people are moving from Facebook to Instagram. You could be then pivoting to Snapchat very quickly, or any other new applications, products that are coming to the market. You will have your natural bent of mind to doing creative stuff which are very youthful by nature, irrespective of your age. And you could learn that very quickly as well. You would be sharp in terms of making creative reels, whilst your peers, your friends might struggle doing so. Now, for many of you, this might sound a very obnoxious, insensible example, but guys, please understand, many people struggle with simple things. But Mercury's placement here is going to give them this ability to naturally understand that they are adapting to how they will find peace, what is going to make them happy. Your sense of humor is going to be extremely different from what you will see in your surrounding. You are going to be extremely happy when you listen into jokes, you enjoy them, absorb them, and you like a certain category of humor, which could be differentiated. You might not enjoy normal shows on Netflix. You might pick and choose something which is not common for your region. There will be some lack of stability that will come with respect to your assets or settlement in general. See, Mercury's position into 12th or 4th gives some amount of movement before a person settles into one place. Settlement takes time. So that is an obvious thing that you will find with Mercury's placement here. Now, fourth house also denotes your mother. So there is high possibility that with Mercury's placement here, all these attributes of Mercury, which I discussed in the first section of the video, could align with your mother. She could be very youthful by nature, very young looking person. She could be extremely brilliant in terms of having hobbies or interest in the intellectual topics like Sudoku, like chess, or maybe a very money minded, business oriented person, strong with negotiation skills. So you could see all those traits reflect on your mother as well. But I would love to know from you guys if this resonates with you. If it does, then please smash on that like button and subscribe to Devastrology. All right. So, guys, now when Mercury is in your fifth house, it has come to the house of creativity, towards your children, towards your stock market investment, towards your past life punya, what you are carrying as the cash balance from the last year, from the last life. And Mercury's placement here is an interesting one because it is like naturally he is moving third to third or 12th to sixth. So, whilst this is a very blessed house and a blessed positioning for Mercury, it can bring in certain level of challenges as well along with it. Now, when Mercury is in the fifth house, you are going to notice that your formal education could be in subjects that are related to Mercury. You could be interested in STEM topics for general. For that matter, science, technology, engineering, management could be of deep interest to you. Yet, at the same time, because Mercury rules communication, because he rules speech, you can bring in the ability carry on courses to take up degrees in areas that can be related to professions that deliver that outcome. What do I mean by that? Running an MBA with a specialization that can either take you in the side of data science or it can take you in the side of business sales. Now, you understand the same degree of STEM can take you in either direction, or it can inculcate the ability for you to grasp vocational courses which are related to singing, stand up comedy. You are potentially learning new subjects where you open up new sources of side hustle, additional income for yourself. Remember, Mercury is money, he is business, and he is also aspecting the 11th house of desires here. So, this placement of Mercury is going to make or bring in desires in your life that are money related. You want to amplify your wealth. You want to add to that. And how will you are going to leverage the ability of Mercury, your communication, your knowledge or expertise around a certain subject. It could be as well related to finance and trading. And that is why stock market related pursuits become extremely critical for a person having Mercury in the fifth house. You will have your tendencies in general to do trades of all sorts. It could be stock market, it could be commodities, it could be running your own venture in itself and doing buy and sale of whatever fast moving goods you can bring to the table. And you will always be aspirational in the amount of money you make. You would always desire more. And Mercury's present here is going to definitely signify that you are going to use your wit, your cleverness, humor, ability to crack jokes, make people laugh, stand up comedy. That is why it becomes extremely critical here. Even if you are in, let's say, movie making industry, if you are in industry that allows you to create creative subjects around creating web series or YouTube related subjects, you are going to embed jokes, laughter, humor, comedy to entice people, to entice your audience. Fifth house is also fame. Then this Mercury in a good dignity is also going to bring in this natural ability for you to do mantras. You are able to absorb or learn mantras very fast. Will give you a skill to learn different languages as well. But the same Mercury can be very tricky when it comes to your romantic pursuits, your romantic relationships. Because if this Mercury has some sort of a malefic nature to it, it can be extremely detrimental to your romantic relationships. Could make you a cheater. You might be playing the field. You might have the tendency to explore much more. Why? Because Mercury gets bored. He likes intellect. He likes to be stimulated intellectually or through humor. He likes to have fun. And if in your relationships you are not able to find that fun, you are going to bring that spice not through another relationships, but more relationships, or maybe through other relationships as well for some of you. And thereby you will jump or hop on from one connect to another, from one romance to another. Now, this might not be applicable to everybody. If your fifth lord is in good dignity, if Jupiter is giving some aspect to your fifth or your seventh house, then of course things will change. However, for many an occasions, you will notice that this Mercury can be extremely turbulent when it comes to maintaining some discipline in your romance or your romantic life. You are going to be extremely shrewd when it comes to be managing what satisfies you, what makes you happy. You are going to work for your benefit first than your partner. And that is something you will have to think and pivot. At the same time, this Mercury can bring in very smart, intelligent kids to your life. Your kids could be smarter than you are. I'm assuming it is not a combust Mercury, it is not a debilitated Mercury here in this case. Or if it is, then it is getting a niche fungal. At the same time, this Mercury makes you extremely skillful in terms of negotiations of your deals. You know how to position yourself, you know how to project yourself to the world, especially when it comes to business. You have the ability to learn and create new sort of financial engineering, financial models in which you can work in your job, in your business. So I think that that level of adaptability, that duality in your nature is going to bring the both the good and the bad of Mercury in the fifth house placement. If you know how to manage your materialism well, if your Jupiter says in the 11th and the 5th, or maybe even in the ninth, it is going to bring a lot of support. Or in some sort of Parivartan Yoga, maybe with Mercury, it is going to bring in a lot of support and control towards the negative aspects of Mercury in the fifth house. Now, if that resonates, guys, you must smash on that like button and subscribe to Devastrology. All right. Now we will talk about Mercury in the sixth house. In general, one would say that Mercury's placement in the sixth house is a difficult one. And yes, I agree. But is it obnoxious? Is it something that a native cannot deal with? I do not agree. Why? Because Mercury, at the end of the day, in the Kalpurush chart, rules the sixth sign of Virgo. So Mercury has his own way, his own art of dealing with problems, of overcoming enemies, of overcoming challenges, of having a discipline of his own sorts. Mercury knows it. He has that earth energy as well along with it. Even though he is youthful, he is young, he is that prince, and he is witty and clever and adaptable, yet he knows how to be disciplined and how to deliver the outcomes as and when required. So when Mercury comes into the sixth house, it brings you the ability to leverage your knowledge, to leverage your skills on a day to day basis, to organize yourself, to structure your life, to bring in a level of discipline in how you approach problems, how you approach obstacles coming in your way. You will be very smart in terms of negotiating, in terms of articulating the right words to your opponents, to your challengers, and winning them over through your speech, through your communication. It's a strong placement from that aspect for this work because you know what needs to be said before what needs to be done. There is that level of balance that comes with this Mercury. It is going, many of you are going to be working in professions that are related to Mercury. You could be in sales, you could be in business of some sort, or working in large businesses, international businesses. You could be in the industry of data science, finance, banking industry. Even on the health side, you will be in the revenue department or in the government job for that matter, in the revenue side of things. It will give you that warrior like energy to find problems, to find what are the challenges that are hidden, perfect them, and then succeed. So it is going to be a journey with this Mercury where you will chase perfection of some sorts, because you will not be able to succeed. You will not be able to overcome the problems unless and until you define by breaking it down into small pieces and then overcoming it. But it also comes naturally to you because of your mind, your intellect, to break that problem, to structure that problem. Yes, some sort of skin related issues, skin related disease is a possibility that you might have. You might suffer with those challenges with Mercury in the sixth house here. It can bring in turbulence with respect to your skin, with respect to your speech as well. One might start speaking a bit late, or they might fumble a lot. There could be speech related issues as well, depending on the dignity of this Mercury. Now, it is possible that it might change over the years, but in your initial years, you might struggle with that bit as well. In fact, some sort of medical expenses, some sort of issues might be very sticky in your early childhood. Getting those cuts, bruises, speech issues, skin issues, psoriasis. These are the common traits, eczema, common traits that you will observe with people having Mercury in the sixth house. Now, this also tells me that you are equally smart in terms of doing that arbitration, doing that negotiation with your enemy, being in a legal profession, and making or delivering peaceful outcomes compatible to both parties or all parties is something that a Mercury with sixth can be super successful at. And thus, you must consider exploring your career in all these streams as well. In general, female pets are going to be more benefic to you. If you plan to adopt, you might consider doing that as well. Now, when Mercury moves into the seventh house, this is one of the, again, tricky yet positive and a negative combination of placement of Mercury to be in. Why do I say tricky? It is going seventh to itself from a directional strength perspective. He really likes the first house placement and he's coming into the west direction. He's not comfortable with that. But at the same time, it is coming into a house which is known for his natural significances, which is that of partnerships, negotiation, business dealings. And thereby, you are going to have mixed outcomes with the presence of Mercury in this placement. Firstly, remember, Mercury tends to enjoy that witty nature. He likes to adapt, he likes to pivot, but he gets bored very easily. And that is visible in your marriage. A turbulent Mercury here can actually bring boredom, lack of excitement in your marriage itself. And thereby, a lot of times, it brings the risk of a person looking out of their marriage because they want to explore new things, because they are getting bored with what they have. They do not enjoy that daily schedule. They do not enjoy the mundane activities in life. But at the same time, remember, this Mercury is now going into the seventh house. It is going into the ascendant of your partner. So you could be the one who might end up attracting a person who's very youthful by nature or very young looking. They could be the one who are extremely witty. They like to crack jokes. They are happy when humorous situations pop up in life. They are happy go lucky people in general. And that is something you will aspire for, because that is what Mercury giving its seventh aspect to yourself is going to give you. And he's going to give you the trader mindset as well. He's going to give you that business commerce oriented mindset as well. But to begin with, you have to figure out a way to find that balance with your partner, to find that excitement and avoid the boredom, or else it can be a very tricky placement for your marriage. But having said that, this placement can be extremely good for business partnerships, because you will know the art of communication, you will know the art of negotiation, you are adaptable, you are witty, you are smart. The planet of business and commerce, trade and commerce, is coming into the house of business and partnerships itself. And that gives you extraordinary ability to succeed in the areas of business, in the avenues of business. This house is 10th to the 10th. So it is x to the power x for that matter. And thus, a strong Mercury placement here is going to make you extremely strong or extremely positive when it comes to the measures of business management. Even if you are in a job, you will end up taking positions or roles that will require you to work in the direction of running the business for your company, for where you are employed with. Or it could bring that ability in your partner, in your spouse itself, that they could be extremely business minded, business oriented, and running something of their own. You will have to watch in the first house as well to get some personality traits that you can anticipate from your spouse's presence as well here. There will be a youthfulness in your marriage itself. And if that youthfulness is there, if that young energy is there blossoming in your marriage, it is going to help that marriage last long. But the moment that excitement which Mercury craves for is lost, it is going to be tricky for your marital bliss as well. And that is what you will have to be extremely careful about. Now, of course, a blissful placement of Jupiter giving that aspect, or maybe the seventh lord. We've done that lot of all houses videos as well. If you not had a chance, go and watch that series too. You will get a lot of clarity as to how this Mercury is going to perform. But in general, there will be some impact that will be declining. It will be in negative because Mercury doesn't like the directional strength of this house. You have to also understand that this is the house of far distances. So you might have to go far away from your birthplace to find your partner, or you might have to do your business far away from your birthland in different geographies as well. You might have to travel a lot, especially air travel might have to be done to go and explore and be in those places to succeed. So all in all, this is going to be very good from a business partnership perspective. It will have some of its ill effects as well. And you are going to do decently well from your marriage if you are able to run with the attributes that are expected with this Mercury. And if you do like that point, then please smash on that like button and subscribe to Devastrology. Astrology. All right, guys. Now we will talk about Mercury in the eighth house. Mercury coming in the natural house of transformation, in the house of research, in the house of pivots, in the house of suddenness, in the house of unexpected losses, in the house of longevity as well. And that is why not a lot of people will talk about it. When Mercury is coming into the eighth house, it brings some level of youthfulness to your appearance. You are going to appear younger than a lot of the people around you, your peers, if this Mercury is in good dignity. But this Mercury, for this Mercury, it's a tough house. It's a challenging house. For a young guy, young prince, coming into the house of transformation itself, coming into the house of sexuality when he himself is playing on both sides, is very tricky. This Mercury can take you into dire streets of sexual exploration, which is looked down upon or not easily accepted by the society. It can make you curious from a very young age to do things which might not be advisable for your age and place. But at the same time, this Mercury has a lot of intellect. He is sharp and he can bring in some extreme level of knowledge, insights, intellect in subjects that are not very common. Now, of course, that could mean deep interest in studying topics related to occult or astrology for that matter. But it also means that this is where you can get into some very high end complicated research. That is why Rahu also likes that combination, or he does well in the houses of Mercury. Because now this Mercury is going to make you excel and be extremely astute when it comes to finance industry, banking industry, insurance, back end of the healthcare, cosmetics industry, which is related into beauty products, beautification, cosmetic surgery for that matter. And you are going to develop some extraordinary amount of skills in very niche area. So you might be, let's say, an expert when it comes to HIPAA compliance, when it comes to healthcare. You understand what are the SOX compliance rules when it comes to banking industry. You understand what are the FDA or ISDA approvals that are needed if you are trying to run a business in the field of food industry, because it's giving an aspect of the second house as well. So that astute knowledge, that ability to grasp and learn new things and do well in areas which are not known to the public easily can become very easy for you. And you might start learning about those subjects from a very young age. It can make you employ or pursue your career, your profession at a very young age itself. But at the same time, this Mercury also tells that all your skill, all your knowledge, intellect will be hidden from the world. You are a smart person, deep down, you know it. But it getting exposed to the world might be a challenge. Of course, Venus and Sun are going to be pretty close around nearby itself. So that entire combination coming in and around this vicinity might not be the best unless and until some good stars are aligned and the placement and the dignity, as we keep discussing, is becoming blessed. But at the same time, it brings the risk of a person losing their father early in life. It can make you suffer business losses which are unexpected and large in size, what you've not anticipated or planned for. You could have a sense of humor, but dark sense of humor. A lot of people are talking about dark humor these days. Mercury in 8th house can give you that dark humor, which a lot of other people in society will struggle to communicate and talk about. You might be able to articulate it without much difficulty. So it is going to bring that ability to it. Is going to also, if it is having a malefic impact, make you interested in earning money through not legitimate means, illegitimate income, under the table gains, malefic gains, which is not meant or which should not be dharma by nature, could be your inclination to make money through those routes, through those mechanisms as well. Again, as you all know, other than Jupiter, I do not like, especially the luminaries, to be present in the 8th house. It is a challenging placement, yet, if your 8th lord is giving you ample of support, and Mercury has good Shadabal, good Bhavbal for the 8th house, then probably you can get a lot of positives that we discussed with this Mercury's placement as well. Now we will talk about Mercury in the 9th house. This is bang opposite to the 3rd house Mercury placement. And if you can spare 3-4 minutes, I'll urge you to go and check out the 3rd house bit that we discussed as well. Just a click of the button, just rewind, and you will be able to get an understanding what happens with Mercury in the 3rd house. This is important for you to note because when Mercury comes into the 9th house, he is coming naturally into the sign of house of Jupiter, into the house of Dharma. And the relationship of Jupiter and Mercury, we are all aware of. So even though Mercury is coming into the house, which is 5th from 5th, which is the higher form of Dharma in the 159 trine, yet this Mercury will have some or the other issues when it comes to your relationship with your father, or with respect to how you align with your ways of thinking, your protocols in life, your value system in general. versus your connect with your father or superiors in life, it can be extremely troubling in terms of how you handle your speech with your superiors, with your bosses, colleagues at work. And that could be the reason for a lot of challenges coming in. Now, I'm not saying everything will be in shambles. No, Mercury is coming into the house of fortune, into the house of luck. So it's a good placement from all those angles. But these tricky situations at the same time will still arise where you could have some or the other turbulence. But this Mercury also brings in the possibility of you becoming entrepreneurial by nature, or you could be following the footsteps of your father in terms of business, finances, and making money in general. You might just copy them. But again, as I mentioned, there could be a philosophical or in principle disagreement on certain aspects of how you want to run things versus how they expect you to do, how your bosses want you to run things versus how you want to deliver. It will bring you the opportunity to travel far and long for your profession, for your career, for your own business. But the initial life will have challenging travel journeys. As you grow older and your value system evolves, you will realize that your travels will also bring you a lot of success. You could be enticed towards newer places of worship, new church, new temple, new mosque. There is a new temple that has come in New York very recently, and I think somewhere in Oman and Muscat as well, if I'm not wrong. So those new places are going to excite you more versus the old places of worship. But at the same time, this Mercury is going to make you fortunate when it comes to your business dealings. Somehow you will naturally have the knack of doing the business dealings. Your education, formal higher education, could come in this field of STEM, as I had discussed in the start of the video. And if you have not listened to that segment, it's 5 minute segment, but it is an important segment for you to understand what's happening there. So that natural intellect will also come to you, or maybe your father could have a definitive impact in your choices of how you approach these subjects. He could be the one who could be shaping your way of thinking, your way of solving complex problems, both academically and in life. And it will make you sharp as you grow. It will build your acumen as you grow over a period of time. But one another interesting aspect of the same Mercury is that even when you continue to grow older, there is that level of youthfulness, that wittiness that sticks around with you. You might even crack certain jokes with your father, and he might not take it lightly. But you still have that tendency to just probe. It is going to be important for you to manage your relationship with the siblings in your family, especially your sisters, cousins, and real, or maybe sisters on your father's side, on your mother's side. That is going to be a good remedy for you. You are going to find success in terms of business ventures or some sort of collaboration partnership if done with them. And I discussed about this in the third house placement as well. So you would want to listen to it to understand what is happening. But yes, business oriented mindset is going to evolve with you. You will travel short as well as long distance to figure out how you can expand your wealth, how you can bring growth to your career, to your family. That is going to be the guiding pillar, the guiding post. And when I say business acumen, this necessarily doesn't mean that you have to run your own company. Even if you are employed somewhere, you will start operating as an entrepreneur, as if you are running that team, you are running that division. You will travel, you will start making decisions that are good for the firm, for your employer, and thereby giving you growth as well. So, from those perspectives, this Mercury can give positive outcomes as well. All right. Now, guys, as you see Mercury coming into your 10th house, this is another very good position for Mercury to be across your chart. The reason I call this out is that number one, Mercury gets the directional strength. He feels extremely overjoyed coming into the 10th house because now he can bring his energy, his expertise, his skills towards your house of karma, towards your profession, in the output that you are going to generate over the course of time. Which means when you have Mercury in the 10th house, there is a natural level of intellect, smartness, aptitude and attitude that you will carry towards your work, that is something you're going to bring in your profession. Now, not necessarily it would mean that you are going to be an extraordinary accomplished person when it comes to your education, your degree. It might not be necessary at all. Of course, the sign placement of Mercury is going to tell you that, but the business acumen or the acumen to solve problems at work, that is going to come naturally to this placement. Yes, if it is in debilitation, if it is combusted, if it is bad dignity, that ability will get diminished to a certain extent, yet it will always exist. So naturally, you would be a person who would have certain level of skill, certain level of knowledge, expertise that you will build over a course of time, and you are going to exhibit that in your career, in your profession explicitly. Mercury is going to increase your general level of smartness, enhance your general level of smartness in your work. You might start at the bottom of the rung, yet you will be able to climb the ladder in terms of your accomplishments. It can also take you in a good dignity in the direction of running your own business, being self-employed, generating employment for more sort of people, especially if it gets in collaboration with the Saturn or the 10th Lord in itself. That is going to give a great impetus for a person to shine in that sphere as well. Public speaking, oratory of any kind, expression of your thought process to the masses, which also denotes leadership, communication being the core part of your profession through journalism, through sales, through traveling, through being a speaker as a leader in your organization. All those aspects are going to naturally come to a person who is having Mercury in the 10th house placement. You could be witty at your workplace. You could find humor in situations which can be very demoralizing and tiring for somebody else. And yet, you could be the person who is able to lift the morale of the people around you just by your sheer presence. You will be seen by your colleagues as a person who is able to address the toughest of the problems in the simplest of the mechanisms. You will have a smile in the toughest of the battles that you could be facing. That is what this Mercury does. You will be able to make a lot of friends, derive a lot of adulation at your workplace as well. Respect will be earned through your efforts when Mercury is coming into the 10th house. So there is a lot of positive that happens with this placement of Mercury. But at the same time, remember, he is a trader. Mercury is into commerce. And there is a certain level of duality and adaptability that comes with the presence of this Mercury. So on one side of the things, you could adapt yourself to any situation. You can pivot based on what the market needs are, what is the desire of the industry segment itself. But on the other side of the things, you could have the tendency of just you winning the situations. And that can be a problem. And I would want you to think from this perspective, not just if you are employed somewhere or if you are running your own business. Think whatever persona you are. Are you a homemaker? You will be good with your karma. You are going to talk a lot about what you can do being a homemaker. Yet, you can bring in certain situations which are not delightful for your family. You are a student, then you will create situations which are extremely competitive for your peer circle. Yet you could be a person who's everybody is fond of. You have this knack of cracking jokes, yet being smart in studies. So whatever sphere of life, whatever stage of life that you are in, this Mercury is going to give you a lot of strength, but you have to also understand that selfishness is something that should not go beyond proportion, or else it could be detrimental in terms of your rewards as well. He will be giving an aspect to your fourth house, which means that somewhere or the other, Mercury's desire will be to find peace through its own characteristics. You are a person who would be happy when you are watching something comedy on television. When you have a happy family environment, you would want to keep yourself away from stress. If you want to expand your assets, You will think how you can multiply them, not just purchase one property and then sit on top of it. No, you would want to make your assets work for their own growth. Money multiplies money, is what they say, right? Mercury in the 10th, giving an aspect to that fourth house, is going to do that. You could leverage your expertise or interest in real estate as well to help you figure out as to how you can derive certain gains with this placement of Mercury. Now, I hope this aligns and resonates to your placement as well. If it does, then you must smash on that like button and subscribe to Devastrology. Astrology. All right, guys. Now we will talk about Mercury's placement in the 11th house. I tend to like this placement. I am usually fond of this placement. And the reason I state that is, here this calculative bent of mind, this youthfulness, this adaptability is all focused towards deriving gains. The planet of business is going into the house that is pushing for getting more gains, more income. So even though directionally he might not be best suited, yet he likes this placement because this is where he is able to reward. You could have a large friend circle who could be beneficial for you, or you could be looking forward to utilize your network circle in general, expand your network circle in general to derive gains from them, to derive benefit out of them. Now, when I say network circle, it might as well mean your social network in general, or it could be the larger network that you can tap on through social media, which means your LinkedIn network or your YouTube, Instagram sort of networks as well. And you finding gains through large network mechanisms, through e-commerce portals, etc., also becomes a significant possibility with this Mercury. Of course, we had discussed this bit in the third house placement too, but 11th house Mercury is also going to give you the possibility to succeed through these media forms. Now, when Mercury is in the 11th, you have to understand that your wit, your sharpness, your intelligence is going to be utilized in terms of deriving benefit for yourself, wish fulfillment for yourself. And thereby, you will notice that a lot of times people who are having careers, creative careers, stand up comedy, people doing something where you utilize your speech, your communication, your oration capability, being in conferences and delivering your speech for your fame, singing for that matter, pursuing some intelligent activity, some creativity to derive gains in multifold levels can be seen with this Mercury. Of course, it will make you a trader at heart. You could be very smart when it comes to running side hustles, even if your seventh lord placement or seventh house placement is not great enough. Sheer presence of Mercury is going to enable a lot of side hustle opportunities for you where you can find the requisite gains that you are targeting for. Now, this house also is third away from your Lord of Destiny, House of Destiny, ninth house, which means that whilst Mercury's placement in my mind was not so appreciated in the ninth house, when it goes third away from there, it tends to perform better. You could leverage something from brothers or uncles on your father's side. You will have very strong chances is that you will have more number of females born in your family, which is that the head count of number of aunts you might have on your father's side, on your mother's side, would be more than the number of males, the uncles. The siblings, sisters on both families' side will be, cousins included, will be extremely critical for you to achieve any of the goals. They might play some part in your education, in your romance, some way or the other. They might play some sort of a role in your wish fulfillment. Partnership and collaboration with them is also not a bad idea. But remember, Mercury is also going to be giving an aspect to the fifth here, and that becomes tricky because with Mercury, the challenge is that it carries the boredom or the risk of boredom with himself. So when he comes into the 11th house, he would very easily get bored with the kind of romances that he is having in life. Unless and until there is some sort of happy element, some sort of an intelligent quotient which is coming along with this Mercury to the life of the natives, they are going to find extremely difficult to enjoy relationships. You might also be perplexed with the kind of majors or minors you want to pick in your university education. You might not be very decisive in terms of what is going to work out for you. And that is where you might do multiple shuffles in terms of selecting your educational priorities. Shift in education priorities can come into play through the course of your life. At the same time, you will realize that you will have very strong trading mindset. It is giving an aspect, seventh aspect to the fifth house, that of real estate investments, sorry, in that of stock market investments, clever strategies that you could deploy. And fine observation is what you can bring to the table in terms of making that stuff happen in reality for you. So you could be strong with your intellect, with your analysis in figuring out that what sort of investment areas will work out for you. Now, you have to also understand the sign placement here, guys. It becomes extremely critical. And I will talk about the sign placements as the subsequent series where we talk about the placement of each planet in each sign as well. But in general, my observation is that Mercury's presence in the 11th is considered a good one. And if that resonates with you, you must smash on that like button and subscribe to Devastrology, guys. And now, last but not the least, Mercury comes into the 12th house. 12th house is usually seen as the place where Mercury finds his debilitation. Why? Because it's the natural house of Pisces. It's a challenging placement for Mercury to be in. This is a placement where you will realize that stability with respect to especially any foreign connection, foreign residence, is going to be difficult to come. You are not going to, for example, people who are struggling with respect to their PR, their foreign visas, immigration and stuff. With Mercury's presence here, you are going to find some or the other level of turbulence until stability comes in life. Mercury doesn't settle easily here. He is extremely uncomfortable. You will realize that through the course of your life, your mind, your intellect, your focus is going to get wasted on things that were not worthy enough. This Mercury is not the one which is going to embark upon spirituality early on in life. It will take a lot of challenges. It is going to take a lot of transformation for this Mercury to accept what it is meant to go through. Because Mercury wants to solve problems. He is excited. He is somebody who gets bored easily. He wants to be curated with new experiences. And he is coming into a place which is all about moksha, nirvana, salvation, spirituality, the higher learning. And that is why he gets extremely obnoxious about displacement. He doesn't let the native settle at all. And the more difficult situation arises when it is not in signs where he feels comfortable. That is where he doesn't let the native have a settled flow of life, thereby impacting the efforts that they are making. You will find that a lot of times your communication, your speech will go waste. You will have to make multiple efforts to convince people to negotiate things happening your way or the way you would desire it to be or you anticipate it to be. It's not going to come easy for you. This Mercury replacement can be challenging from that aspect. At the same time, you will realize that you are going to enjoy creative stuff or you are going to things that are foreign to you, things which are not from your culture, not from your land. They will be of interest to you. Your taste in comedy could be very different from the sitcoms that you see from your country versus what in terms of some other region. You will be able to appreciate that. And this is very peculiar. Your tastes, your experiences will be different from the people around you. Your topic of interest in general could be very different. You could be interested in learning new things about things which are far away from you. Spirituality will come very late in life after lots of transformation. But learning, absorbing new subjects, new topics, which are of different culture, will be of deep interest. Now, I already mentioned that you will struggle with respect to your interest in terms of settlement in a foreign country or abroad. This doesn't mean that it will not allow you to travel abroad. It will. But Mercury here takes some time for a native to find their feet because he himself is uncomfortable. Imagine a young prince who's to talk about not enjoying the pleasures of life, denying everything for himself so that there can be a better future. That is not something that this Mercury can comprehend. That is the reason he is debilitated here. But his aspect to the sixth is going to be, in a way, an exalted aspect. So, this Mercury at the same time is going to promise you that if you are going to fight with a rigor, if you are going to have certain discipline in your life, if you are going to put in the right effort, he is going to reward you with some outcomes as well. He is going to make you successful in careers related to Mercury, finance, data science, digging in terms of the depth of something, being at a job that requires you to manage something meticulously. That is what this Mercury is going to reward you with. Albeit you will be bearing few losses, albeit you might struggle with your own business setup, but at a later point, it is going to help you succeed as well. Because in a way, Vipreet Raj Yoga is working. That is why I'm saying that things will happen for you at a later point in time. So this Mercury is going to test you. And once the maturity of the native is hit, that is when you see that this Mercury starts settling in and starts to give positive impact as well. All right. It will become more like Jupiter at a later point in time. So I hope, guys, you enjoyed this session. If you have, then please smash on that like button, subscribe to Devastrology. I will request you to please help us spread the word about Devastrology. If you've liked this series, if you've liked this playlist, just share this playlist across through WhatsApp, through Instagram, through any community channels to your friends' network, so that more and more people can come and leverage what we are trying to build here. All right. Thanks a lot. Keep watching. Om Namah Shivaya.